Hello and welcome to the All About X-Men Comics podcast, where you'll find recaps and reviews of all the most recent X-Men comics, as well as previews for upcoming issues. Please keep in mind this does mean spoilers and probably some swearing. I'm host Scorpio Moon. I've traveled all over the comic book world, but the X-Men have always been my home, and hosting with me is...
Johnny Alpha, and yeah, man, I've always just wanted to be a mutant.
Alright, so let's dive right into Uncanny X-Men number 13, our Battle of the Atom book for the week. So remember that time X-Men number 6 ended with Psylocke emerging from the rubble? How about the time that it wasn't really her at all, and it was actually the shape-shifting future son of Wolverine and Mystique? Because that's what happened. Obviously the scene with Psylocke and Mystique-Irene didn't end so well for her, and impersonating Psylocke was all it took for Mystique-Irene, or maybe we should go with Wolverine to get close...
Well, they call him Reyes. It's the first time they actually used his name in this issue, so yeah. But I like your name better. I mean, like...
Yeah, they did finally name him, but I'm probably going to stick with either Wolverine or Mystique-Irene for now. But, yeah, I know Reyes seems kind of appropriately just kind of silly and, like, trying to be cool, but isn't. I mean, you know, like you said last week, it's like you thought Dakin was dumb. Just wait till you meet Reyes.
Right.
So yeah, things did not go good for Psylocke, and this is all it took for Reyes, whatever, to get close enough to original Hank and Bobby to snatch them up, completing evil Xavier's set of time-displaced X-Men. Xavier's evil grandson mind controls Krakoa into eating most of the assembled X-Men, so they're MIA for a good amount of the action, leaving Magik and Colossus. They take out Molly, Deadpool, and evil Xavier, which allows the rest of the X-Men to be released. Now, what do we learn here? For me, it's that the Rebel X-Men team of the future do want to send the original X-Men back to their own time. Now, I know some of you were thinking we already knew that from the beginning, but especially after they were revealed as evil X-Men, you know, my mind started spinning with ideas. Like, once again, maybe they don't want to send them back. Maybe they want to impersonate them or implant some kind of ideas in their heads. I mean, they're described by their former teammates as vicious, so who knows what they have in mind. But maybe I'm just overthinking it. We saw in the flash forward how devastated Beast was when the first mutant president was assassinated, and I guess basically he decided that Cyclops was right. You know how Quire had that Magneto was right shirt? Well, Beast says Cyclops was right now. I guess he wanted to undo what he did by bringing them out of their time in the first place. So that event undid his whole motivation from the beginning of the all-new X-Men book. Which, I mean, really the whole motto of this event is fight fire with fire. You have one instance of time travel, and it takes even more time travel to undo it. Swallow the dog to chase the cat and all that.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. There's a lot of soul sword shanking going on in this too. I mean, like, I've always wondered, like, if they actually stuck people with them big old swords Magik has, and this issue really answered that for me, man. Like, you get 3 really good just shanks with that fucker.
Some of my favorite panels too. You know, I especially hate to put something so big and glowing and obvious out there in your book, and then not even use the fucking thing.
Right, and that's how it kind of felt for the longest time with it, and now, yeah, we just finally get to see it just impaled into these characters. It was kind of savage, but then again, I get this feeling that they're not actually harmed. It's about as painful as maybe Psylocke's psychic blade type of thing, right?
Yeah, I imagine it's not actually like a physical... I mean, I think it can be if you want it to be. Some amount of the force is dependent upon the user, but I mean, even calling it a soul sword, yeah, the whole idea is that it's also just kind of a mystical stabbing that probably just knocks you out until you need to wake up for whatever the plot requires you for.
Right.
Okay, we also learn when we see future Jean crying as she's about to send them back. I think what we learned there, you know, gives me the strong impression that she is expecting big changes from this, which include erasing her own existence. Which brings me to, you know, the big thing at the end of this issue is that the time travel doesn't work. The machine is fine, but no matter how many buttons you press, it won't activate and send the original X-Men back. Through the dialogue, we're basically told that it seems like time itself is more or less refusing to let this happen, like it's a defense mechanism to prevent even more paradox. Now, I don't trust a damn word coming out of this new Dark Beast's mouth anymore, but it seems like a fine enough explanation, and if the established X-Men from the future have come back to stop the Rebels from doing this, it would seem that is what is supposed to happen, and that barring any catastrophic ending, you can expect to see more of these X-Men around for a lot longer.
They weren't going to get rid of the all-new X-Men already, man. They're only, 13 issues into it? I mean, and this book is selling so well. I knew that no matter what happens, they weren't going to go back, or at least all of them weren't going to go back, type of thing.
I think they did a good job easing us into that, though. We were promised from the beginning that these X-Men, might, in theory, go back relatively soon and then be mind-wiped by Xavier. And that let us just kind of put all the continuity fuck-ups aside and just relax and enjoy the story. But now that we're used to it, they can just kind of keep moving along.
I'm okay with that, and yeah, just the way that they're explaining all this stuff and the way that they're bringing about the explanations for this in Battle of the Atom, I'm actually having a lot of fun and just enjoying this new scape of characters and future that they're painting with this, because they have played with these aspects before in several X-Men crossovers and events and stuff, and I mean, at least for me, I've never received any of them as well as this one, because the X-Men from the future, I actually understand and I get where they came from. It's like they actually went out of their way to make it almost organic instead of just making a bunch of characters up like they usually do. So, I mean, I'm having a ball with this.
Yeah, as it moves along, it definitely seems a lot less random than it might have at first, especially with the character decisions. So, with that being said, do we want to go thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it?
I say thumbs up, and I say buy it if you're already reading the event. If not, like I say, every issue for the Battle of the Atom, go ahead and wait for the nice hardbound collection that's coming out. It's going to be an epic read. You could blow through it, you know what I mean, when the trade comes out, and it's just going to be awesome for you.
I'm going to go thumbs up, especially for the creative character designs. Whether it's Jubilee's Claw Envy, Quire's Phoenix Getup, or the matching Soul Swords, this issue is very cool to look at. And buy it. We called so many issues from the first half of this event setup issues, but that's all over now. Its momentum is carrying, it seems, right through to the end of the event. Moving on to A+X number 13. Okay, so story number 1 begins a 6-issue arc pairing Cyclops with Captain America. When a splinter group of Skrull mutants, who you may remember from other stories, plan to attack Earth, Skrull leadership decides to warn us because they don't want to risk being associated with it and being drawn into another war, because another war is something their fractured society simply cannot afford. They have an interesting way of going about it, though. They basically abduct Cyclops and Captain America, planning to deliver their message to a human and a mutant representative. The whole time, the Skrull messenger is worried that he's going to be attacked by Psych and Cap, but the real joke on him is that Cyclops and Captain America start fighting each other, basically the first second they can, not even paying any attention to this fucker, wrecking his ship as they fight and nearly crashing it and killing everyone in the process.
Well, you paint it half right. Cyclops the entire time was trying to reason with Cap and explain to him that, dude, you're going to need my help on this mission. Did you pay any attention to what the green guy with the funny ears said? And it just was not registering to Cap. I mean, this issue was all right, but I really hate the way they wrote Captain America in it. They just made him such a moron.
Yeah, I thought intelligence was one of his powers.
Not in this. And yeah, what was with fucking Cyclops' meet his murder apron? I mean, did anybody else read A+X where him and Emma Frost were eating steak in their mind? You know what I mean? Is a vegan really going to be doing that?
Absolutely, man. That was absolutely going to be my next point. I could do without all the goofiness, like Cyclops being abducted in the middle of a barbecue or something. I mean, what the fuck is he barbecuing? Veggie burgers? I mean, he's wearing an apron over his full battle costume. I think it is a great fight, though. I didn't realize how badly I wanted to see this confrontation until I read it. And talk about a cliffhanger. Cyclops in handcuffs that melt into themselves after being put on, so there is no lock mechanism to even pick.
It had its good points and stuff like that, but I've been waiting for it too. I just wish it was set in a more serious manner than this kind of cheeseball little setup that they put together for A+X. I mean, I was really looking forward to this, and I gotta say I enjoyed it for the most part, but I was actually really expecting it to be a lot better than this, personally.
Yeah, I would love for this to have been a real event, or at least have just taken place in Uncanny or something and not this joke of a book.
And it to be written with a little bit of, maturity and respect to the characters, because like I said, they really did not capture Captain America very well at all in this book.
Moving on to the backup story, featuring Black Widow and Emma Frost. We were promised in the solicits this would be the sexiest thing in A plus X history, and this basically turned out to be my least favorite thing I've read in comics anywhere, I think, since I started reading again. Johnny, you talked about how hard it should be to fuck this up. Well,
They found a perfect way, didn't they? I mean, honestly. And it should have been good, there's a porn tape for Emma Frost, and her and Black Widow are going to go find it together, and it just, I don't know, it just got stupid and stupid. I did like the very end where she programmed Dude's brain to whenever he sees bare boobs, it makes him puke, and Black Widow really enjoyed it, so she kept flashing the guy to watch him spray. That was alright, but I mean, the rest of the story, it was right there with when Beast and Wonder Man went and fucking sang karaoke with Absorbing Man. It just was ridiculous retarded.
Yeah, and on top of that, they didn't draw either character as being sexy, even in the slightest. I mean, their faces are always either fat or old-looking, their bodies not curvy or delicately slender, but really just lumpy. I mean, the texture of the art is incomplete, so they don't even look like real people. Like, they don't even have real skin tones, they're like static. I mean, the visual art is downright offensive here. And the story is honestly offensive. I mean, really, I find it to be demeaning. I mean, the whole point is that Emma has a leaked sex tape, and she enlists Natasha to help her track down the leak. I mean, that's just an embarrassing thing to do to the White Queen, who honestly would probably either A, not let that happen, or B, just be proud of it.
Right, yeah, I mean, she is A-okay with being just a sexy mama, so I mean, I don't see how she'd really feel too bad about it. I guess maybe she'd be worried about Scott finding it, but dude, that train has sailed. That should have happened before they you know what I mean? They're broken up, and she likes to drive it home that he loves himself, he thinks with his penis, and he has no friends, so she ain't really feeling for Scott, so I don't think that she'd be worried about his feelings about him seeing said sex tape at this point in their relationship.
Even if that came in as a motivation, I suppose that would have been something. But like you said, they track this guy down, and as punishment, Emma puts a psychic whammy in his head, a sort of hypnosis thing that will make him projectile vomit whenever he sees naked breasts. So yeah, she's ruined his life alright, and sex is pretty much out of the question now. But the issue ends with the women taking turns gleefully exposing their breasts to him to make him vomit. I mean, once again though, their revenge involves exposing themselves to him even further? What the fuck kind of logic is that? It's just, again, demeaning.
I didn't even think about it like that, but yeah, you're 100% right.
Oh, here's my revenge! You can see my tits again, and my friends, the black...
I mean, even if I was puking, I'd still be like, I've wanted to see both of their knockers for a long time, so I mean, I would deal with a little nausea, you know what I mean?
This guy can walk around now saying that he's seen the Black Widow's tits, and he didn't even have to go up on the internet and look up the naked pictures of Scarlett Johansson. Okay, so thumbs up or thumbs down, and buy it or skip it.
I'm gonna go thumbs up, just because I kind of liked what they did with the Cap, and that aspect of this, the X-Men plus Avengers thing that they're actually going to be doing, because next issue looks like it's going to be Spider-Man and Magneto teaming up to help with this Skrull situation too. So, I mean, it looks like it might be an okay thing. They just kind of started it off on the wrong foot, and they kind of misrepresented the characters. So I'm going to give it a bit of a thumbs up for that, but I'm going to go ahead and just say skip it. Dude, don't buy it.
Thumbs down. The second story was worthless to me, and the first should really be taking place in a more important book. Obviously, skip it. Okay, so I know A plus X was born out of AVX, which is where the Psych and Cap conflict comes from as well. But I still just can't believe that this book is going to be the book that's going to have the final say on that confrontation. It will probably be replicated somewhere else, and you can read it there. Okay, now Cable and X-Force number 15. Did this just become my favorite comic? Okay, let's start near the beginning. Cable and X-Force have a cool underground base, and we get a nice look at all the sections of it. It's so practical and covert, yet cozy and homey. I mean, I love it. So it's got the feel of a typical kind of day around here. Boom Boom is fucking around in the armory and causing accidents. Dr. Nemesis is pestering Forge with testing sciencey stuff, and the team is just doing some typical type missions. We never get to see enough of these in these types of books, I think. Hope is toying with some Reavers while on a training mission to disarm them of a bomb, while Colossus and Domino are having sex in the middle of a mission where they've been sent to stop some assholes from stealing Sentinel supplies. And while they plan to beat the shit out of these dudes, they are kind of saving them from the guard sentinel that they probably don't know is about to straight up murder them. Now, I describe these as typical missions, but they're fun as shit because they find new ways of describing them, and for the banter during them, these team members play off of each other so well, especially with Boom Boom the Ditz and Dr. Nemesis the asshole genius. Speaking of Boom Boom, by the way, whether it's her flirty way of asking for help, or Domino's cleavage and post-sex shimmer, this is easily the all-around sexiest book of the month. Also, the action is clear and dynamic, with perfect shifting levels of peril. I mean, I guess I've liked this book well enough in the past, but when the hell did it get this good? I mean, I was really just blown away, man.
I think it's this issue. I mean, I've had fun with it since the get-go, but I mean, you painted it very well. Now that they got a whole setup, and like they're actually kind of working together more as a team, and they got this weird dynamic that like I see that for some reason, I don't know why, but I think Dr. Nemesis and Boom Boom are going to end up sleeping with each other. But their relationship and a lot of the stuff between the two of them, I don't know if you know me enough, girl, but I do not say I don't know very often. And all the banter, like you said, was awesome.
Yeah, I loved her whole little cute ditzy kind of routine. That was just too much fun. I mean, it even made me not cringe when she said stupid things like totes or some of that. I mean, I don't think real people even really use that word, but
Girls on TV seem to, but yeah, I've never actually seen anybody in real life. But I also kind of like that, Cable's doing the daddy thing, and Domino's not waiting up for him, man. She went ahead and she moved along, and like she's giving Peter some love, man, and like his poor ass needs it. So I'm really glad that she's throwing a little pity fuck Colossus's way.
Didn't Cable and Domino kind of leave it at it's complicated?
Right. And I mean, she's never been exclusive anyways. I mean, during the other X-Force books, she was totally getting on with Wolverine. They were making chicken noises and all kinds of shit. And so, I mean, Dom is just down, so...
Yeah, she's just up all night to get some for real. And then and didn't they have sex with him in his metal form?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so she likes it hard, man. She likes it raw, like fucking oh dirty bastard and stuff.
For real, man.
Raw. And that whole thing that I'm gonna go in there and steal some shit, and like Colossus is going to do a cruder version to you what he just did to me. Oh, I don't think I like the sound of that.
Oh yeah, that was a colorful metaphor, all right.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. This is probably my favorite read of this week, too. I just, was just laughing through the whole thing, and the Reaver guys, the way Hope was beating him up, and, that goofy tank-looking guy, and even she made fun of the way he looked. I don't know, I just like the humor of this book. I really like the way that Dennis Hopeless is taking it. I mean, he's a great writer. I've been a fan of his for a while. I really like the Six Gun at Oni Press, and, I'm really glad to see that he is at Marvel, and he is doing his thing at Marvel so well. So, yeah, great issue.
I also really did love that line you mentioned with Dr. Nemesis. I mean, it's like, even when he's wrong, he's right. If I don't know something, please interpret that as, we're really fucked. Because I don't use those words lightly.
Right, yeah. She keeps asking him questions, too. So, yeah, the relationships that are being put together in this series is just, I don't know, it really, makes me happy that, this book got launched. Because when it first started, I was kind of cringing at the thought of Cable leading the X-Force again, since X-Force has become such an awesome team, but since this book's been launched, I mean, it's just been good, in my opinion.
I think you made the best point about it earlier. You kind of mentioned how it's kind of starting over again, or, I mean, maybe not starting over again, but, it's got a new chapter now, kind of like a fresh beginning. They've got the Avengers off their back for a little bit. Cable's got his brain kind of sorted out. It's a new chapter, and the last bits of plot that we have to wrap up for this issue, Forge has a scary Indian-looking ghost monster hiding in his head, and it picked the absolute worst moment to break free and leave Forge bleeding energy all over the floor, because it was right as he's supposed to be remotely shutting down a bomb and a sentinel, leaving the teams now to deal with them on their own. And right as they're about to pop, the issue ends, giving us our cliffhanger, which, as we all know, comics always do it. Sometimes they're frustrating. But in this case, it was comic book timing at its finest.
Right.
And yeah, is the scary Indian-looking ghost motherfucker hiding in Forge's head a tricked-out version of the trickster demon adversary? Or maybe his Mumudrai, his, evil form, a la the other X-Force book, which will be crossing over sometime soon? Both good guesses. It remains to be seen which is which, but thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it.
thumbs up, thumbs way up, and go ahead and buy it. Honestly, this is a great jump-on point if you haven't been reading this series so far. Gets you to know the characters that are involved, and if you like it, you can go back and get the other 2 trade paperbacks. So, I mean, yeah, dude, like, book rules.
Yeah, talk about a fine jumping on point. Shit, this could have been the first issue of a series. But, I'm gonna go thumbs up for an all-around quality comic. It's clicking on all cylinders. Every aspect was solid. And buy it for a perfect portrayal of renegade mutants. This isn't an evil brotherhood, but sure isn't the squeaky clean Jean Grey school either. It's nestled somewhere perfectly in the middle. Our next book is Wolverine Max number 12. So, because having a Wolverine without an accelerated healing factor in his self-titled series isn't enough, Wolverine Max follows the story of a Wolverine with E-Schnickdial dysfunction, as he can't pop his claws due to some mental manipulation from Mr.
E-Schnickdial dysfunction, that's awesome.
As he can't pop his claws due to some mental manipulation from a mysterious and sometimes sexy woman known as Mother Night. As she learns about Logan's true nature, she realizes having a neutered killer isn't really quite as effective, and lets him annihilate an opponent in a cage match before sending him off to do some hypnotized killing for her, which he of course won't really be conscious of at the time. Now, the scratched up looking art style might not be for everyone here, but damn, I was trying to segue into some positives.
Is there any way you can paint a positive for this comic? I mean, when I was reading this, I was just like, oh my god, dude, I was so hard on the actual Wolverine Killable issue last week. I mean, I actually felt bad that I was so mean on that book because, dude, I would have rather read that again than read this issue. I mean, do they just write Wolverine as the biggest retard in this comic book on purpose? Is the guy, Jason Starr, that writes this, is he even a Wolverine fan? I mean, like, he writes him as a total retard, a moron. Oh, man, it's just... And the name of this arc alone, Extreme Logan, really... Wow. Is it extreme at all? No, dude. He's whipped. He sits there and says, yes, Mom Night, yes, Mother Night, over and over again. And then there's a couple fuck scenes. And then the comic's over. And then, yeah, he has a little fucking cage fight for the UFC fans out there, you know? It's like, dude, this is like the worst comic book. I didn't know Marvel comic books could put a comic book out this bad right now, you know? I mean, like, everything else is, like, all firing on pretty good thrusters. I mean, A plus X was, you know what I mean? But A plus X is a goddamn Phantom X Max compared to this book. So awful.
Ouch, man, ouch. Maybe it's not fair to review this one right after such an awesome book like Cable and X-Force number 15. I'm going to try and dredge up some positives here. I think they're accomplishing what they set out to with the story, at least from their intentions. They're using a lot of the right Wolverine tropes. And I mean, the way they get inside Logan's head, showing us the mental manipulation from his point of view, is pretty effective, kind of a la Memento, I guess. Mother Night looks kind of hot again in this issue. I mean, I like her ass. I like that nighty thing she wears as a dress, and her lips. All these little character interactions throughout the issue make for an enjoyable read. That's the first thing I would tell the writer, maybe first. But at the end of the day, it still just feels like a waste of a Max book. And who the hell wants to read an out-of-continuity, updated, modernized origin that isn't offering anything really new or unique? I guess the answer is no one. Okay, so, before we do thumbs up or thumbs down, one final nitpick. After all this time seeing Wolverine get shit kicked and building up that tension, waiting for his killer instinct to finally return, I really wish they wouldn't have cut away right at that moment and had actually let us enjoy Wolverine finally winning a fight.
Yeah, it really was just another stick in this, because all we got to see was him like whining about not remembering things, him being whipped by this chick, some really kind of stupid looking sex scene art, and yeah, him hanging out with some white trash guy in a trailer, you know? It's like, that's what Wolverine dreams are made of right there.
For real. Okay, so finally, thumbs up or thumbs down, and buy it or skip it.
Thumbs down, thumbs way down. This book makes me cry for Wolverine fans, just makes me feel so bad for them, and skip it, because if bird shit was cool storytelling and awesome art, this fucking book would have a clean cage.
colorful metaphors. I love them. Kind of like with your surprising verdict for A plus X, I'm actually going to go thumbs up. This arc is kind of doing it for me. And once again, like I said before, I think it's the best we've seen in this title so far, which ain't saying much. But anyway, yeah, skip it. I don't know, you're just not really missing anything if you don't read this. Okay, so on to Marvel's Vertigo book, X-Men Legacy number 18. Why does X-Men Legacy feel like a different book each issue? Anyway, don't you love when everything builds up to something that turns out to be complete misdirection? I mean, everything about Legion becoming the World Worm and devouring the whole mutant race and everything, it was all a ploy to draw out one mutant-hating bad guy. So he could give fuck all about Cyclops, and while this shows him actually being above the traditional X-Men grudges and schisms, this issue also highlights how twisted this guy is. He calls himself pragmatic, but it all seems pretty convoluted to me, and quite frankly, kinda sick. We're talking about a pretty tortured guy here, and this story really just piles it on.
Well, yeah, I mean, you gotta admit, Legion's been just the most screwed mutant because he is so schizophrenic that, dude, he has been kept in, like, a dormant state through most of his life because he just can't control himself, so he's going to be a little unhinged, to say the least.
Yeah, man, you can say that again.
Right? And, yeah, I mean, like I said 2 issues ago where he was fighting Cyclops, it was so much different than the normal feel of the book, and it was more X-Men-y than this title's ever been, and probably ever will be again. Spurrier's really getting back to, like, that weird, Vertigo style that he's doing for this book, and I gotta say, it really works for me, man, and I really am just really getting into the relationship of Legion and Blindfold in this comic. I mean, they're just a great couple, and I don't know, it's just fun,
Yeah, I think the involving of the X-menishness in it, bringing in Cyclops and his uncanny team, I think that was used as just a single plot device, to lead them into using what they call the Pyrrhic, which comes from the old phrase Pyrrhic victory, meaning to win a war at great cost to yourself. Basically, when they think they're going to lose a fight, they plant a psychic bomb in your head, so at least you go down too. And it's a damn good psychic bomb at that. Not sure how well this plays out for anyone, though, because it seems to have let a pretty nasty personality of Legion's loose.
That's the name of the game. That's how this series has been. So it's more about Legion getting his shit together and, like, him actually trying to become... Because he really wants to be his father's son. I mean, that is kind of the point of this book, and that's what his whole little adventure is about for the most part. He wants to live up to the Xavier name, you know what I mean? And he wants to become a good guy, but he's got so much shit wrong with him that it's going to be a very Greek tragedy-style adventure for the poor bastard.
Yeah, even his own genius plan involves him getting beat to a pulp. It really is depressing, and the whole idea of, like, wanting to be Xavier's son, I mean, no matter which side of the story you want to go with, as far as this most recent arc, it really works on both those levels. Do you have any final thoughts before we go thumbs up or thumbs down?
Just that, man, we are kind of selling this to sound more sad than it is. It actually is a very, fun book when you're reading it, even though Legion is a tragic character. I just wanted to get the listeners to understand that.
Okay, so thumbs up or thumbs down, and buy it or skip it.
Thumbs up. I mean, this is just another prime example of why this is probably one of my favorite X titles ever. But I'm going to go ahead and say, you go ahead and wait for the trade paperback for it. There's no real need to buy this issue. It's going to be really good when you get the whole story, because especially if you haven't been reading this book from the get-go, it's kind of not make too much sense to most people.
I'm afraid I have to go thumbs down. The story is just getting a little too twisted up for my taste, and the visual art is just all over the place. I'm willing to go with buy it, though. Legion makes a perfect foil for the rest of the X-Men when you read this issue, and the ways in which he's different from them makes you really learn a lot more about both, or at least just appreciate certain aspects more when you see them highlighted. And with that, we move into our previews. It's a dark week. Lots of dark books coming up, both story-wise and just literally the colors of the pages in all this week's issues. First, we have Savage Wolverine number 10. I'm thinking expect a little more story here, but I'm guessing emphasis on the little part. Since our podcast was published, I went back and read some reviews that were a little harsh on the first issue. I mean, yeah, it was light on dialogue, but look at any single issue of any standard-sized comic, and only so many things actually happen in it. So, I mean, that being said, don't expect an info dump to come in here. I think the issue is going to kind of stroll along as the mysteries slowly unravel.
Well, and Jock, he's a very visual artist, especially when he is writing and drawing the book. He really relies on his pictures to do the talking for him. I mean, he's done this ever since he did Tor Scion at 2000 AD. So, I mean, I was expecting this kind of storytelling from the get-go. But I don't know. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm liking the way this looks. I like the setup for it. I think it's going to be a great Wolverine story when it's all said and done. I don't know how much more action we're going to get in this issue, but it's going to pick up from the first issue. I can't see that for sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking it picks up a bit for sure. I mean, how could it not? But I think this series for this arc is just kind of a slow burn. And that's how it should be. I mean, even after the first issue, I'm appreciating it for that already. And as the last issue has kind of continued to sink in, I still only like it more and more.
Right.
Okay, so up next is Uncanny Avengers number 13. Once again, I always promise spoilers, so let me tell you right now, someone's gonna die.
They've had that going this entire arc, that feeling, and it's going to be somebody important, too. It's not like they're just going to kill some cheeseball.
Well, the solicits have promised us that someone's going to be killed by the Horseman Sentry. Solicits we now know are full of shit, thanks to A+X number 13. But if someone's going to die, I mean, what do you think, man? I mean, Wanda and Janet, already, they just played that game with them. I mean, Thor, Cap, or Wolverine?
Really? Wonder Man's dead.
I'm thinking Wonder Man or Sunfire. I mean, you predicted Wonder Man a while back. And I mean, for a pacifist guy, that kind of makes sense.
Well, and they have been playing up Sunfire as a tragic hero in this arc. So, yeah, I could see him probably going, too. Okay, yeah, no, you're right. Probably between those two, it'd have to be.
And they did kind of give Wonder Man, I guess, kind of a happy send-off in the last A+X, you could say.
Yeah, I mean, he's such an obedient little dog to Wanda anyways. He'll do whatever she says. So, I mean, if she at least, like, makes out with him before he dies, he'd go happy. That poor bastard.
Yeah, he is kind of a silly little fuck that way. That would make it all worthwhile to him, wouldn't it? It's like Diz dying at the end of Starship Troopers. At least I got you.
Yeah, perfect analogy.
Thank you. So our last book for next week is Wolverine and the X-Men number 37. So we know it all starts with the same old trick, at least based on the previews, like where you think you're talking to someone or you're fighting or whatever, but it's all just a mental projection, and meanwhile they're sneaking away. They've done this in this event a couple of times already, and then, you know, in the preview pages, Colossus references, oh my god, they've done this to us before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. It's another issue for the Battle of the Atom, and that's the only time that, like, Wolverine and the Archies is, like, worth reading. So, I mean, like, I'm interested in this issue.
Yeah, Wolverine and the Archies. I mean, we said it once, and we'll say it again. Wolverine and the X-Men has never been as good ever since Battle of the Atom hijacked it, and that's all the more reason to wish this event did continue longer.
No, I really hope that, like, they keep this momentum going and they try to, like, launch some more mature storylines and they get off of Quentin Quire and his girlfriend. I mean, there's more going on in the Jean Grey School than that egotistical little turd.
Well, man, the thing for me about Wolverine and the X-Men is that the whole series has always played to this kind of sentimentality for Silver Age silliness that was going on.
Yeah, I mean, they brought back the dupe and everything, you know what I mean? And I loved Pete Milligan's X-Force and X-Statics, but I never thought that they took place with any of the regular X-Men. So now that the dupe's involved, I'm just kind of like, why is he there? You know what I mean? It kind of makes no sense to me.
And speaking just strictly as a Wolverine fanboy, I really wish the series that focused on him finally achieving this massive character growth and going from the rebel without a cause to the, pipe-smoking, flannel jacket-wearing, leader of all the X-Men school, whatever. I really wish that book was just more important and more serious and more worthwhile and not comedic relief.
They canceled Astonishing X-Men last week, man. I mean, we covered that. I mean, book's over. Oh, you were talking about Wolverine and the Archies. Oh, that's not going to happen. As long as it's about him and a bunch of kids, it's Saved by the Bell with the goddamn mutant power, man. And I really wish that the book would pick up, and especially with a talented writer like Jason Aaron that can tackle mature and just awesome storytelling. I'm really just, face palm whenever I think about this title normally.
Yeah, a title that should really be like a flagship book for the franchise. And if for some reason anyone considers that it is, I kind of shudder.
Stay by the Bell fans, I guess.
Anyway, let's end the show with some fun segments. Let's start with Sex with a capital X, our sexiest moment of the week.
Oh my.
Johnny Alpha, do you want to lead us off?
Sure thing. My sexiest moment of the week is from Cable and the X-Force, and it is when Dom pops up with their unzipped outfit from behind a snow pile, being caught basically with their pants down on mission. The facial expression on her was very cute, not to mention, we actually got to see some cleavage and stuff, so, it was a very sexy little picture.
Some fine detailed cleavage, too, and she really had, her skin is not the glowiest to begin with, but she definitely had a kind of after-sex glow going on. A very sexy moment. Mine comes from the same issue. I'm going with Boom Boom in Trouble in the pages of Cable and X-Force number 15. You can just hear the cutesy little feminine bullshit in her voice as she kind of tries to flirt her way into getting some help. And it's not like she's trying to stroke their egos or anything else. It's just some ditzy little banter and striking a sex pot pose. Definitely proof that being a renegade mutant can be glamorous.
Right. Yeah, that was going to be one of mine until I got to the Dom sex scene, and I was just like, no, that's it.
Okay, so to end the episode, shall we spike the punch?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, spike it up, bro.
Spiking the Punch is a segment where Johnny and I each recommend one non-X-Men related title to spike up your weekly comic book reading. Once again, Johnny Alpha, do you want to lead us off?
I don't mind if I do. My Spiking of the Punch is another offering from Vertigo Comics. This is the second week in a row I've gone back to my favorite imprint aside from Image, and this is for 100 Bullets Brother Lono, issue 5. This is just such a great little story arc, and I just gotta say that I am just a huge 100 Bullets fan, and it's so great to have that team back together, even though I kind of don't see this story arc really as too big of a tie-in to 100 Bullets, aside from it has one of the key characters, Lono, in it, after said events from the book in, and this is just so awesome. If you're a fan of, say, Sergio Leone cowboy movies, or Robert Rodriguez's Mexico Mariachi trilogy, then this is a comic book you should really look into. Lono, who is a loudmouth kind of Wolverine-style hitman that used to work for the Trust from 100 Bullets, since it's been dissolved, has done a bit of soul searching, and he finds himself down in Latin America where he kind of finds some kind of odd spirituality and decides to help this orphanage and church out where he is and stuck in between a cartel war. And I don't know, I just love this title. I love Azzarello's writing. It's particularly brutal, especially with the 100 Bullets style stuff, and I can just look at Eduardo Rizzo's art all day long. He is just one of the best talents out there. This book, it plays with some really kind of finite issues and some real hot-button issues that are going on right now in Mesoamerica. So, it's a relevant book. It's a very action-packed book. It's got some good spirituality to it. And it's a solid read all the way around.
I'll admit, I found this a little hard to follow at first. Kind of like fading in and out of a dream. Or more like a nightmare, I guess. This is going to be the worst joke that you've already heard. But do they call it vertigo because reading it makes you dizzy? But man, by the end, everything really started coming into focus. And then I'm like, fuck, it ended. And it was ending just as it was really getting good.
Well, like we were talking about, man, it's the comic book cliffhanger. And, dude, it is getting down to where Lono and the little gangbanger that he has kind of taken under his wing are going to be going after our head-to-head with this cartel leader, and it's going to be brutal. If you've read any 100 Bullets before, expect death and lots of it.
Yeah, man, what a dirty comic, too. Just the fat guys in their underwear and the child prostitution. The feel of everything is so grimy. I really get the impression that this is the kind of book where when something bad happens to somebody, most of the time they deserve it.
Oh, yeah, no, exactly. There's a great sense of justice. In 100 Bullets, there's never actually, a protagonist or somebody that is a good guy. There's just people that are less skeezy, the actual villain of the story,
Yeah, but being the main character doesn't necessarily make you a good guy.
Oh, no, and I mean, like, if you've read 100 Bullets, even some of the stuff that they just discuss in the comic books that Lono's done in his past, he is far from a redeemable human being, but he finds himself on the righteous side in this battle, and, it's kind of redeeming, and it's kind of nice to see his character get this kind of a chance, you know what I mean? Like I said, it's just great to have 100 Bullets back again, even if it is just for a little 8-issue offshoot,
Yeah, man, and I love these kind of morality plays and shit like that. I mean, like, if you're a fan of shows like The Shield or The Wire or Breaking Bad or Walking Dead, where everything's all gray and who's the good guy exactly, I don't know, but maybe if the bad guy is a little less bad, that's a good thing, then I think this is your kind of book.
Right. Perfect analogy once again, my friend.
Thank you, thank you. This week, my Spike the Punch is almost literal, as I'm going with Buzzkill #2 from Dark Horse Comics. A book about a superhero who gets his powers from getting intoxicated. The series starts somewhere after the fact. He's trying to get out of the superhero life, which more importantly for him means getting sober. Now this guy was a pretty brutal hero and developed quite the rogues gallery over the years, and now they're all out to get him, which isn't going to make staying sober any easier. I'm really glad that I can recommend issue 2, because I really wanted to recommend issue 1. Like, I remember before I even opened it up thinking, man, this is probably going to end up being my Spike the Punch. But the first issue didn't offer enough. I mean, you have to allow at least an issue for the setup, I suppose, but I just really wanted to see this power in action, Like, see him get stronger as he gets drunker. But what happens in issue 2 more than makes up for that. The fact is, any drug can affect him, not just alcohol, and in different ways. I mean, like, even caffeine. And that leads to him figuring out the plot against him. The way it all goes down is really clever. Like I said, it more than makes up for the first issue being a recap origin issue kind of thing. And for me, it really does become one of those kind of deals where after reading this, I look back at the first issue more fondly. Its quality increases in my eyes.
I gotta agree. I liked the first issue, but like you said, I kind of was a little meh about it. But this one, it really just brought it home. I love that art style. It reminds me a lot of Sean Murphy. He's a Vertigo artist, and I just love the look of the book. And like you said, unconventional superhero storytelling that just is so popular right now, I cannot get enough of. And the good thing about this one is it doesn't play to DC tropes like most of the other ones have been. This one makes fun of Marvel, so I mean, it's got a little bit of originality with that on it too. So I mean, what a hero, what a way to get your powers. And he's another just like almost tragic kind of guy that you can almost feel bad for, like the guy from Sidekick, but he's douchey enough that you kind of like sometimes don't mind seeing him get what he gets in the issue.
So this is not one of those fun, rowdy drinking and drugs kind of things. It's more one of those down, depressing, look what I've done kind of tales, which works fine metaphorically with superpowers. They're fiction, so of course we glorify them, but it's one of those things where when you step back, that fiction is often so full of suffering and pain and hardship for the characters. I think back to All New X-Men, I think it was issue 15, where Scott and Bobby are in a park, and a group of girls tell them they think it's cool that they're mutants, and Scott is just so taken aback. Like, he can't believe anyone would romanticize his situation. I'm almost reminded somewhat of Fly, written by Raven Gregory for Zenescope, about a drug that gives the user superpowers. But I think this is a little darker, if that's at all possible, and it embraces the straight-up superhero aspect of the situation a little more. And here the metaphor and the story are much more tightly intertwined. I mean, both great comics in their own right. I only want to compare them on those superficial notes, just for the sake of it, and at least, just for now. But as of today, my recommendation to Spike the Punch is with Buzzkill #2.
And that is a great choice, man. Like, one hell of a spiking, man. Enjoyed the hell out of reading it.
And that's a wrap. Next week, we'll dive right back into the world of X. In the meantime, we hope to hear from you in the comments section of whatever site you're listening in on. See you then.